It's time for another episode of The Changeover. Coming up this week,
ChatGPT and I have had to get kind of close and personal and figure out how to work together. One of the things I heard a lot about was treating AI as more of a teammate. If I'm going to take that perspective, my teammate and I need to learn how we work well together. I think we have to pivot more towards how do we stand out and make the customer the hero of their own story. I thought a lot about, you've seen Finding Nemo, the shark that has this mantra that's like, fish are friends, not food. my mantra is AI is teammate, not enemy.
Welcome to the Changeover podcast. I am Kelly Wilhelme, Director of Marketing at Weidert Group, and I'm joined today by Becca Hubert of Falcon Structures. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we actually saw each other last week in San Francisco. We were there for Inbound, and so that's what we're talking about today. To kick us off, Becca, why don't you just give us a little introduction of yourself and your role at Falcon?
So at Falcon Structures, I am our content strategist, and that means basically I just help shape how we tell our story, from the more big picture messaging to our day-to-day content that we create. And I work closely with our teams to just help them be sure they're communicating really well with our customers in meaningful ways.
Awesome. And I have the pleasure of, at Weidert Group, hearing stories about all the cool stuff Falcon is doing. I know you've had a big hand in some success with your purpose-driven messaging and your PR related to that. So I'm excited to kind of get your take as having that background in content and strategy and PR and all that, having attended Inbound. So let's dive in. But first, I'm going to just ask you a fun question. What was your favorite thing about Inbound 2025?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I think hyping the humans again and bringing the importance of the human element to our work again was my favorite part.
I agree. It was, they kind of rolled out this new concept. I don't know if it's new. It's new to me in terms of thinking of a hybrid team as humans powered by AI, or humans to the power of AI. I think Dharmesh called it.
Right.
And so instead of, we've heard about hybrid teams a lot the last few years from the pandemic, but it was a kind of a different spin on that. So I agree. Absolutely. It was nice to hear that. And I heard a lot of chatter in the halls too of okay, enough with the AI already. Let's figure out how to be humans and use it to our advantage, but still be human. So yeah. Love that. So were there any moments that stood out at Inbound for you, or aha moments, or things that really shifted your mindset?
Yeah. So the last time I was at Inbound was 2 years ago in Boston. And the theme of that one kind of felt like, all right, make peace with your AI gods. And this go round, it felt more like, let's reevaluate the value that human beings bring. And that was something that I think Yamini said in her keynote, was reevaluating the human value and the emotion and the context and the nuance that AI cannot do. I think for a couple of years, marketing as an industry probably overcorrected a little bit into AI. Let's just let it do everything. And this year, while AI was still a very big topic, there were several sessions I went to where it was mentioned maybe at the top of the session, but after that, it really wasn't the highlight. And I think there's been a cohesive mindset shift that's refreshing and makes me feel hopeful as a marketer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It felt, hopeful is a great word. It felt more hopeful than the last couple of years, I would agree. And I think a part of that was perhaps HubSpot's rollout of the Loop framework. We've been talking about that a lot internally the last couple of days. And I think that framework that they rolled out gives us as marketers something to grab onto, in terms of how we can best reach and engage and, be humans powered by AI to reach other humans. So I'm curious, like, was there anything from your perspective when they rolled out and started talking about the loop that resonated with you as a content strategist?
Yeah, I think I thought a lot about Weidert Group because we partner with your agency to basically tackle this Wild West that is marketing in the age of AI. And I was talking with Chelsea Drusch afterwards, and she kind of said, nothing really felt brand new or like, oh, that's a shocker. I've never thought of that before. The loop kind of created this framework to what we've already been discussing, which is this experimenting and then assessing and then iterating on it, all the while really trying to hone in on, okay, what's the human aspect of this? Who are our customers in all of this? And how do we stand out to them in this sea of sameness, which is a term I heard a lot as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, particularly with your background in content, and I know you have like a heavy copywriting background too. How have you been using generative AI the last year or two in your like everyday workflow as a B2B marketer?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there's been some soul searching with all of that, because like you said, my background is heavy in copywriting, and the work I was doing even 5 years ago can now be, I'd say 90% outsourced to AI. So I've really had to shift to the strategy side of it all and hone in on, I think, understanding our customer a lot more. And, anecdotally, I think for my own soul, I like to write creatively outside of work just to kind of maintain that connection with the craft of it. But as far as doing something professionally for my company, ChatGPT and I have had to get kind of close and personal and figure out how to work together. One of the things I heard a lot about was treating AI as more of a teammate. And if I'm going to take that perspective, my teammate and I need to learn how we work well together. So often what I like to do is the word vomit, as I call it, and here, let me pour my human soul onto the paper for whatever I'm writing, whether it's a case study or a thought leadership piece, and then feed that into ChatGPT, and it knows me well, it knows our company well, and from there work on creating something that's more polished and publish ready a lot more quickly than if it were all me.
Yeah, I love that. I think you expressed that very well and very similarly to how our agency writers have adopted and are trying to view it as a coworker who can help you, make your content better, really.
Yeah. I thought a lot about, you've seen Finding Nemo, the shark that has this mantra that's like, fish are friends, not food. My mantra is AI is teammate, not enemy. So, I have to say that sometimes.
I love that. I'm going to have to remind myself of that. I'll put it on a Post-it on my monitor. I still do that. I don't know if other people still do that, but I still do.
I do. I actually, for a long time, had a Post-it with a quote from Joe Phillip on your team, who is my creative strategy fairy godmother. And the quote was, templates were made to be broken. And I just love the way she said that.
I love that. Yes, and I would agree. Joe is a lot of people's fairy godmother internally, and I'm glad to hear it externally too. So shout out to Joe. Nothing better than a great teammate. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, we've talked a lot about AI being viewed as a teammate, and hybrid teams was a theme of Inbound. Were there any other themes or moments from Inbound 2025 that felt especially relevant to you as like a B2B marketer?
One of the things that I took away, I think her name was Ty Heath, and she is part of the LinkedIn B2B Institute. And she said that B2B marketers are still choosing clicks over memories. And that really resonated with me because, especially within a business-to-business context, I think there's this tendency to see the customer as this faceless corporation rather than a human being making decisions, perhaps, where your marketing strategy might have leaned heavily on features and specs. Now, I think we have to pivot more towards how do we stand out and make the customer the hero of their own story and use that storytelling perspective to convey our product and its value.
Yeah, I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. And I do think some of the things that excited me about HubSpot's new AI tools were specifically for that personalization aspect. So that's where I think, like, again, the hybrid team and thinking of how we can work best with AI to deliver human experiences at scale, right? Because right now, like if you wanted to, in the past, if you wanted to try to hyper personalize, and we're not talking about personalization tokens, right? We're talking about speaking to that person and their pain point and their journey, not just their company, like you said. And so now with some of the tools that HubSpot rolled out, with personalization at scale, I'm really excited to dig into and play with some more and see how we can do that. How can we make our marketing less batchy, and more one-to-one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that's just, stuck in your mind, or an earworm, or even just anything really fun that you want to share or encourage other people who may be wondering about the inbound experience?
I think one of the things that I took away was just how AI is really changing the landscape and making it more of an even playing ground. And suddenly, from my perspective, smaller, scrappier marketing teams might have the advantage. And I might be saying that because I'm on a small, scrappy marketing team. But I heard the analogy of a jet ski versus a cruise ship a couple of times. And I think that's very appropriate. And it's fun to be the jet ski right now because we're getting to experiment and pivot and try new things. And I think it's making us punch above our weight, which is something that we're going to continue to lean into.
I love that. I hope that you will join me on another podcast episode. I'm going to plant the seed and talk a little more specifically about the PR campaigns and the success you've had there. If you're willing to do that, I'm going to offer a standing invitation.
I'd love to, because that's been a lot of fun. Talk about the Wild West. It's like, let's do this. Let's see what we can get featured in. And Weidert has been a great guiding hand in all of that. So
well, and I think I've just been a fly on the wall because I'm not on your client services team, but I love the purpose-driven messaging that you guys have been putting out, and I think that pivot enabled some of the success that you've been having with the PR campaigns, which I think, like, a lot of times, it takes courage to pivot to purpose-driven marketing. I would say, like, where you're talking about your mission and dignity of worksite solutions and things like that versus just lead gen product, right? Like, everybody wants to focus on their product. And so I think sometimes we miss the forest for the trees and connecting those dots of, like, making this brave pivot enabled us to have some success in this other area. And it sounds like you guys are having some cool results from that.
Yeah. And I've told our leadership a couple times, like, one of the greatest gifts you've given us is taking this route with our messaging, which is employee advocacy and improving really harsh work sites for traditionally beleaguered workforces, more blue collar ones. And suddenly the idea of use a story to sell your product and tell people who you are and what you do is so much easier because we've taken this direction. And it's ripe for storytelling within our company.
Yeah, I bet you love that as a writer and a storyteller.
Oh, I do. Yes, and sometimes I might need to ask ChatGPT, like, let's just bring this down a notch. Like, it's a little too theatrical too dramatic. But yeah, it's been an exciting shift for us.
But like you said, to kind of bring that full circle to our conversation, that is human, right? Like if anything is human, dignity in the workplace, purpose-driven messaging, like that is so human. And I just love that.
Yeah. It's been a very fruitful landscape for us, and we're excited to just keep digging into it.
Well, we teased it, and hopefully listeners will tune back in. Hopefully we can get that scheduled and unpack that a little more and give our listeners a little more insight.
I could go on all day about employee advocacy. Yeah.
Well, I will hold you to that. Well, thank you so much, Becca. I think that's it, unless there's anything else that you really is itching on your mind to share with people.
No, I just appreciate you having me on, and it was so great to meet you in the flesh in San Francisco.
I know. Yes, we had a couple of dinners together as a team, and we love it, and we're grateful for your partnership.
Yeah, let's bring you down to Austin next, and we'll do some tech next again.
I love it.
Okay.
Thanks, Becca.
Thanks for joining us on the Changeover podcast. Remember to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Weidert.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next time by messaging Weidert Group on social media. Thanks for watching.